Okay, so um, our favorite destination was St. Kitts. This is St. Kitts. Our excursion was basically a trip on the train that used to service the sugar plantations on the island that went around St. Kitts. Um, it also afforded us the longest amount of time on the ship before the tour actually occurred. Um, and then there was a delay on the train, so we got to, our tour guide drove us around a little bit, so we got to see even more of the island. So this is from the ship. As you can see, another ship over here as well. This is us coming into port, them leaving. Beautiful St. Kitts sign. Me and Mama in St. Kitts. This is the little port of entry thing. This guy here, if you came back in, he was checking your passport and your vaccine card, which is great. We did some shopping and we got back on the ship, and we waited for our tour to happen. Four ships at once. You can see the island is very dense and green and lush. I love it. This is looking down toward the south end of the island. Nevis is here in the distance. So it's St. Kitts and Nevis is a whole nother island. Same direction. Big Royal Caribbean ship next to us. This pier had moorings even out into the water, so it was pretty crazy. This was our favorite little bar on the back of the boat. You could sit here. We actually sat over in this area. It was nice and calming. Outdoor space, very few people. This little area was a specialty restaurant, and then you can see the grass over here. They had bocce tournaments, and then they had places you could sit here, and then these obviously are sunshades if you needed them. Looking from the top of the stairs on that level that we were just on down to the pool deck area. Most people at this point had already gone ashore. Our tour wasn't until noon or 1. Never heard of P&O Cruises, but nice looking ship. So this was toward the front of the boat, and this is the indoor pool is inside this glass here. There's also the no kids pool. So we're getting on the bus, and the bus driver's saying, hey, we get to waste a bunch of time because the train is running behind. So we got to go through downtown Basse-Terre, I think is what it's called. So this is a cricket stadium. Cricket's very popular in the islands. Not sure what I was taking a picture of here. Lots of pretty vegetation in town. Very laid back feeling in St. Kitts. Lots of old churches like this. Been recently redone, quite a few of them. Obviously lots of tour buses and stuff going around the island. This is a school. Looked like the kids were down for their naps, I think the guy said it when we went through. This is the other side of that same cricket stadium, I think. Part of that church again. It's a different church, sorry. But as you can tell, very old churches on these islands. some interesting trees I'll point out here in a minute. This was some governmental buildings or something, I forget, but folks seem very laid back here. This was a government building as well. Fresh baked bread. Didn't get to go in there, unfortunately, but looked really good. So, harkening back to their British heritage, lots of traffic circles. Very old telephone booth, no longer operational, obviously. So this was a large park right in the middle of the city called Independence Square. I'm sure there was a good story around it. There was a lot of people seemed to be sort of enjoying their lunch hour at the time we went through. Big fountain in the middle. Lots of folks, like I said, relaxing, enjoying their lunch hours. Another big church coming up over here on the left. Lots of beautiful trees that look like mimosa trees but had seed pods even bigger than what we have here in Texas. The guy, I think, said that these churches are open on days when the cruise ships come in for people to actually walk around and see the inside of these churches. Obviously, we didn't get to go in. Jehovah's Witnesses, too. Obviously, these islands, they were all these different denominations were jockeying for position in these islands long, long ago. Seventh-day Adventist Primary School. So lots of remnants like this of old sugar processing. Obviously, sugar was very big in these islands before tourism took over. Lots of local folks selling fruits and vegetables along the side of the road. This was, the driver was taking us toward the south end of town. Obviously you can see some renewable energy going on in a few spots. Lots of houses up on the hills for the maximum views. Obviously you can see from the views here that you can see the ocean. This was, I believe, the big Marriott Hotel on the south end. This is also a hill toward the south end. Very dense and green and lush. This Timothy Beach Resort was pretty cool. This road kind of proceeded and the water is a little further down. You can see here, and then basically the road turned and there was all these little restaurants and bars along the little strip here of beach. Looked like a great place to hang out. As you can see, gift shop, seafood, cold beer, chairs, umbrellas, all kinds of stuff. Definitely would like to go back and try some more snorkeling at St. Kitts. People everywhere, even with COVID. At the end of that little street, there was this little hotel up on the hill. Looked really nice. And then basically we headed over toward where we got on the train. A bit more of the... So here's the train. Quite a few of these buses. Loading stuff in and out of the backpack, waiting for the train to show up. So this is an actual old sugar train that basically carried stuff around the island. I liked how this perfectly came out of the back of her head. It was great. So they had quite a few old um, train cars and engines at this juncture. It was pretty interesting to see that the thing you saw pulling this train was actually the more modern one. Here's some of the older train cars, train engines. So this was back looking south again. We're basically on the south end of the island, about to head north along the Atlantic side. This was the conductor that was coming around and making sure everybody was wearing their masks and doing what they should be. A little town down here on the end, and my wife is pointing to the goats and sheep off the edge here, and as you can see, they're all over this little hill. So the Atlantic side definitely looked a little more sparsely populated, a little more rural. The whole island had a very laid-back feel, and seemed to be the kind of place that you could go and pretty much get away from everybody if you wanted to. This was looking back inland up into this hill. The train kind of did a little loop around here, and then you can see over here some rock. It started mining. But lots of pretty dense vegetation. They were basically mining this hillside, turning it into gravel for construction projects. There's the little gravel company. Looks like they probably also made concrete. I think I had just missed seeing a truck drive along this ridge here. And this is looking back south again toward the south end of the island, and then Nevis there in the distance. This was one of the railroad crossings that forced the traffic to stop. Basically, the roads on the island basically loop the outer edge of the island along with this train track. Some rain in the distance. Some sheep. Believe it or not, down there the sheep, it gets so hot the sheep basically shed their wool. So tails down sheep, tails up goats, I think is what they said. So this island, very volcanic. You can see these are peaks of former volcanoes. I don't think anything's been active in a very long time. There's one stratocone volcano on the island, and it looks like the jungle has basically taken over the whole cone of it. I would definitely like to go back and hike to it. The tallest peak on the island is really only 3,000 feet high. So we had a bartender on every train car, and then this lady up here was basically our tour guide, giving us the speech on everything. Seemed to be a bit of construction pretty much everywhere you went. I wasn't sure if it was all new stuff or stuff that people had started and then stopped. Really just lots of dense vegetation around the edge of this side of the island on the Atlantic side. Lots of grasses obviously replaced where there was sugarcane previously. So lots of dense grasses like this. Super pretty everywhere. Lots of bridges like this. That's mainly why I took some of these photos, was looking at these bridges we were going over. In a moment you'll see we get close enough to the beach where you can actually see down there, and it looks like a lot of black sand beach. So apparently these were old rail cars for the actual train when it hauled sugar. So old structures from the sugar times, times when they obviously were harvesting sugar on the plantations around the island. Pretty good amount of surf on this side of the island for sure, especially versus the other side, although today it looks fairly calm. Lots of steep drop-offs on this side of the island, but very pretty, and obviously you can see the color of the water is just amazing. So we had these guys come up on the train and dance. They played music and danced. Uh, Obviously, this was a tribute to the Aboriginal folks of St. Kitts. Lots of pretty views from the train for sure. Would love to go back and rent a car and explore the island completely. Along the coast there weren't a whole lot of hills, but most of the towns were along the coastline as well. On this side there weren't as many towns for sure. Obviously you can see here some pretty rocky shoreline here. I think the Atlantic side gets quite a bit more surf. Starting to get close to the big volcano on the end, on the south end of the island. If you Google that volcano name, you'll pull up quite a few beautiful pictures. Another huge bridge we're about to go over, and then obviously mountains in the background. Or hills, whatever you want to call them. I mean, 3,000 feet is still pretty tall. Some of these you can just barely see. So this tree, they had these trees there that were really tall and skinny, and they look like pine trees up close. It was really quite interesting. But that next to that is a stack from a sugar plantation. More grasses, obviously you could tell it hadn't been that long, and then obviously more sugar plantation stuff. Some more livestock. They look like they're fenced in, but they seem to only be eating that area, so no idea why. Lots of little bridges over these gorges. Obviously water heading down to the sea created quite a few of these. And there you can see the black sand. Definitely super beautiful, super tropical. They must get a whole lot of rain there. And then here's another spot where we basically cross back over the road that goes around the island. There are definitely areas where you can tell that no one has gone in and cleared out anything. Would love to have a little spot like this up on the hill overlooking the ocean. Definitely beautiful. Peaks cloud draped almost the entire time we were there. More goats and sheep. Some donkeys. Yay! Can't tell if those were tied up or not. I think there was one that we saw that was tied up. I was a little bit irritated about. Yeah, this guy was on a chain for some stupid reason. So now we're coming pretty much to the north end of the island. There's a couple of little towns along the north end and quite a few newer looking buildings. Quite a bit of construction going on, always. And then a really old church. Got another picture of it here in a second, but um, I think he said 1600s. I forget. Let's see here. So another little town. Pig tied up. Some very cute little spots down here, and then obviously, as you can see, there's another island off the coast there. I forget the name of that island, but more remnants of sugar production. There's the better view of that island. And then I believe you're coming up, yeah, looking back up toward the plantations, there's a few people, you can tell the folks that own a lot of land live up the hill, sort of, and they own a lot of the land back toward the water. So this is a brand new hotel that just got built. I can't remember if it's a Hilton, Ramada. So there's a brand new Ramada resort, just been open not that long, they said. And then obviously another island to the south, to the north. So more pictures of the volcano. There's a school we went by, another little town. And here we got a very close-up view of the sugar production. Oh, and I think I must have gotten stuck. 1 second. 148. Alright, so small jump cut to the next photo. Very close up of one of the structures used in sugar production. As we pass it, you can see that it's been repurposed by the locals. More views of the volcano on the south end of the island. So St. Kitts Eco Park was built apparently from some donations, I think, by the Chinese. Can't remember if they said it's a wedding venue plus just a neat place. So up here on the hill is a fort we did not go to, but you can even see the cannons there. If you go on Google and look it up, you can see it's a very well preserved or restored fort from a long time ago. It definitely something to do if I go back. More structures of that same fort back around the other side of that hill, you can see up here at the top. A boatyard, very interestingly, nowhere near the water. Wasn't quite sure how these boats got here without there being water close by, but an old church that was being redone. See the construction here. I believe I have the name on a placard here in a second. Yep, St. Thomas Anglican Church. Another church with a leaning fence, slanted fence, sorry. So apparently this is a 300-year-old tree. Clearly the tree didn't care about the sidewalk or the street going by or any of that. View back up into the hills. Would definitely love to hike up in this area. Looks like it would be great. You can read on Google about people that have hired local guides to take them up there. A little bit more development on the Caribbean side of the island starting to occur up on the hills. Most of the towns and structures are actually very close to the coast, which would be on the opposite side where I'm looking here. New condos being built. Of great views of the ocean here, for sure, looking the other direction. And here we are back at the ship. Enjoying a nice drink at the end of the day, waiting to depart port. My wife's standard funny face. And then again, looking back south, it's really quite beautiful. Some panoramic shots that I did as we pulled out of port. I like this one that makes that cruise ship look very narrow. Here you can almost see the whole north end of the island. A few more folks on the back of the boat, and this was St. Kitts. It was great. We definitely want to go back.